People often ask, how much does an executive coach cost? Here's the better question. How much do you earn from them? And if you can't answer that, how do you know it's worth it? In this video, you'll discover what makes executive coaching so effective, the simple test that determines whether you're getting what you paid for, and the three-part mechanism that allows the right leadership doctrine to drive massive growth and profits. Now, most people think coaching works because of the questions. I used to believe that too. My first job after leaving the Navy was as a sales manager for a telecommunications company. I was building a sales team, and my first hire came out of the tire industry. So I assumed he already knew how to sell, and I thought he only needed to learn a new industry. So most of my training focused on telecom products and pricing. Now, once he started going out on his own, I began coaching him on his sales calls. And like most coaches, I asked questions. I assumed he had the knowledge, and I thought I was simply helping him see his blind spots. Well, it felt like beating my head against the wall. The same issues kept resurfacing, and even after we thought we had fixed them, eventually I realized the real problem. We didn't share the same framework on how to think about selling. And once we established that framework, well, the coaching suddenly started working. And that's what makes executive coaching effective. Not just questions, but a shared doctrine that creates clarity. If this is already changing how you're thinking about executive coaching, hit subscribe because in the next few minutes, you're going to see how to measure whether it's actually working in your business. So if executive coaching creates clarity, how do you know if you're actually getting what you paid for? Well, according to Harvard Business Review, executives say they hire coaches to develop leadership skills, to provide feedback, and to help them become more effective. And those things absolutely matter. But in a business, they're not the end goal. They're only valuable if they improve how the business performs. So, early in my year, I kept having to justify purchases and expenditures I wanted to make. And that's when I realized something important. See, there are no business expenses, only investments. Every dollar on a P&L exists for one of two reasons. They either produce revenue or they protect it. Cost of goods produce revenue, insurance protects it. And even fixed overhead exists because it supports the systems that allow the company to earn money. Executive coaching should be no different. If coaching is creating clarity that improves communication and decisions, those better decisions should eventually show up in the financial performance of the business, which leads to a really simple test. If profits aren't improving over time, you're probably not getting what you paid for. So if profit growth is the test, how does executive coaching actually produce that result? Well, it starts with clarity. See, the first kind of clarity is understanding what the real problem is, or more accurately, the real opportunity. See, most problems in business are simply opportunities for improvement. If it's a problem for you, it's probably a problem for your competitors as well. And the leaders who solve it first gains the advantage. And a good executive coach helps the leader cut through the noise and identify what actually matters. The second kind of clarity comes from the framework itself. See, doctrine provides a rubric for unpacking the situation and evaluating possible solutions. So instead of guessing or debating endlessly, the leader now has a consistent way to think through the problem. And once those two things are clear, well, communication becomes much simpler. People across the organization begin operating from the same playbook. And that clarity, that improves communication. And clear communication improves decisions. And better decisions, made faster and closer to the work, allows the company to capitalize on those opportunities through more sales, more efficiency, or both. And that's what ultimately drives profit growth. And that's not just theory. A study by Metrics Global found executive coaching produces an average return on investment of nearly 8 times the cost. And for my clients, that mechanism is translated into an average annualized increase in net profits of around 32%. So if you're looking for an executive coach, make sure they have a leadership doctrine that creates that kind of clarity that drives profit growth. But even when leaders start making better decisions, two things can still derail the results. Organizational drag that slows execution and key person dependency that traps decisions at the top of the organization. So if you want to understand how those two forces quietly limit growth, watch these next two videos.